Hello, Carrots here. Welcome to part 24 of the 30 Grandchildren Badge attempt. This episode continues on from where part 23 ended, with our two main characters, Lynette and Larry, enjoying their vacation in the future world Oasis Landing. The wasteland seems to extend forever, but you can't go very far past the crashed ship. Larry picked up that computer back in the visitor centre where they're staying. Larry went inside the crashed ship and he found another sprite, and Lynette followed him in there and they had a little flirt. They're doing quite a bit of flirting lately. There they go. It's time. We're going to watch the stars together. At least they're sitting where they can actually see the stars. You can see the stars in the sky and the glowing crystal plants. This is the first time they've ever watched the stars together. In part 23, they were getting used to Oasis Landing. They were looking around and seeing what they could find and doing some classes, and they discovered there was all sorts of wonderful things they could collect in the Badlands. And the more they collected, the more they found, because things just spawned faster and faster as they collected more and more. It seemed the harder they worked, the luckier they got. And as they worked together or separately, they could not avoid being aware of each other. They both knew the purpose of their vacation was for them to get to know each other and to decide if they would stay together and have lots of babies together, which is what was expected of them. But they were both a little nervous as they didn't know each other very well yet, and things could still go either way with them. But they seem to be going quite well at the moment. Oh, they got a visitor. Some plumbot from town's come to say hello. Lynette spotted those crystal plants from the distance and decided that they needed her immediate attention, while Larry stood there and read his book on his multi-tab. I think the green ones are happiness. I know the pink ones are love, and the orange ones are rage, and then there's blue and green. I think the blue is laughter, and the green is happiness. Lynette must be happy because she just added some happiness to that neutral plant. It's starting to go green now. The white ones are neutral. She's got to chat with her sprites to keep their mood up, otherwise they get very depressed. There's a lot of emphasis on emotion in this expansion pack into the future. It was the final expansion pack for The Sims 3, and they were trying to transmission people into The Sims 4. When they get home with all those sprites, they'll be able to spread them around the house. The night is almost over, and the new day is rapidly approaching. So Larry's back down inside of the ship, sitting comfortably reading. So there he is, he's come out and he's heading off. And they continue working as a team at the wasteland, continuing to find more sprites and more little llama statues and other things. And as their collection grows, they start to think that perhaps they've got enough. But it's really hard to know when to stop. There's just so much to find. She just got another sprite and a llama statue this time. Since Larry wanted to learn the bot building skill, he headed into the city and he went to the bot arena and took a class. But we couldn't follow him in there, so he just vanished. And then when he came out, he decided he wanted to go shopping. So he headed across to the EP11 Imports Gallery. He had to travel quite a distance and along a couple of streets, but he finally got there. And when he got inside, he was just totally blown away by the amount of futuristic equipment that he could buy. Let's hope that Lynette isn't concerned about the amount of simoleons he spent, because he did go a little crazy buying up all sorts of things that he didn't know he wanted, didn't know existed before he saw them, but then he just simply had to have them. He bought a laser rhythmicon. I think that's what that thing is. Yes, well, he bought it anyway. Cost him 910 simoleons. Good grief. Is he ever going to own up to his spendthrift ways to poor Lynette? By the time he gets out of here, he's probably spent all of the simoleons that they've earned during all of the days they've been busily collecting in the wastelands. But it was a very impressive place to be. He managed to resist buying a futuristic car, only because he didn't think it would fit in well at home. They probably have to come back to the future quite regularly for it to get repaired and maintained, so he didn't get that. But he got all sorts of other beautiful, wondrous things. And there were lots of townies in there too, all of future residents that he saw, but eventually he realised he'd just have to go back to Lynette in the wasteland where she was still busily working hard collecting things to help them set their future home up, as if they were to have a future home together. After his spending spree, the outcome could be questionable, but he just had to get that one last extra sprite just because it was there. We've had a good look around this place. He had enjoyed himself, but he was beginning to feel a little anxious. Back at the crash site, Lynette found a sprite and then she had a chat with it, and then she got scanned by one of the plum bots. I hope it got whatever it wanted from her, and then it just chatted to its sprite, so Lynette left the scene rather quickly. Lynette slipped into the adjoining room where there was that huge projection, and she tried to experiment with her Sims 4 concept art program chip. She activated it, but nothing happened, so she put it away and got her sprite out. Then she thought maybe she should go and try to find Larry. She hadn't seen him around the wastelands for quite a while, and she wondered where he might be, and then she thought of that gondola hangout, so she headed there, and lo and behold, she found him in the bar, dancing. Next, Lynette decided to mix herself a drink, and that is when she discovered that she was not a very good mixologist. Larry just stood there, chatting with his sprite. Believe it or not, she did actually manage to get a drink in the end, and I was seeing all those broken bottles and thinking, I'm so glad this is The Sims, and it's not in my own kitchen. After the carnage of Lynette's efforts in the bar, they decided to go back up to the surface and see what they could do there without causing too much trouble. And there was that carousel looking very inviting, so they hopped on it and they had a lovely ride with a few other Sims who happened to be at the gondola lot at the same time. As everything must come to an end, good or bad, it always ends. The ride did as well, and they were soon off and looking for other things to do. Of course, Larry's the bookworm, and he found a comfy seat to sit and read a book, while Lynette, being slightly more adventurous, decided to investigate the dew flowers. Now, those dew flowers are those huge flowers that are growing at various places around the lot. And the thing about the dew flowers is the Sims can shake them and cover themselves in dew. And depending on the coloured dew they end up getting, they can get completely recoloured. Fortunately, Lynette seems to have decided she wanted to clear, so she didn't change colour. But she did get very soaked. Then she noticed that Larry had finished reading his book, so she scooted over to him, and there was a certain amount of flirting going on, even though she was still dripping with dew. They were finally starting to focus on each other. There's just been so many distractions in this world. Larry got an overwhelming desire to give her some red flowers, and so he did, and then they had a kiss. And next it was time for a romantic photo together. Their kisses were especially sweet, and they each got a beautiful boost in happiness that lasted for hours, because Larry had developed the trait of great kisser. And Larry's now getting ready for his next move. So far he's been successful with a kiss and flowers, and now a dip kiss. Wow, he is getting brave. And I can confirm that by the end of this little encounter, they have become officially boyfriend and girlfriend. So things are going to hopefully speed up somewhat after this. It'll be all about them. And then all of a sudden, once they've made the big decision to be boyfriend and girlfriend, they take off. There is a spot downstairs that they would love to have a competition with each other on, playing arcade hoops. There are 2 arcade machines set up side by side where Sims can compete against each other, and that's what they're going to do next. Harry has set off to go downstairs, but first Lynette needs to have a slight argument with a neutral crystal plant. I'm wondering if she's trying to imbue it with rage, but I don't see her imbuing it with anything. She just seems to be having a conversation with it or something. But she'll soon join Larry downstairs with those arcade machines, and off she goes. They had some friendly competition with the arcade netball machines. They soon got into a rhythm where they were launching their balls at the same time. They weren't always going into the basket though. You need to watch that very carefully. Sometimes they just bounce in front of the basket. And after they'd had enough of tossing the balls up through the nets, they went back to the restaurant because they were hungry and they needed to eat. And there was a chef on duty, so they could order a meal. And yay! It looks like Lynette won. Oh, Larry. Maybe he'll do better next time. At the restaurant, Lynette had ordered first because she got there first. Larry had to take time to consider where he'd gone wrong with that hoops competition. When he finally got to the restaurant, Lynette had already ordered, so he had to sit and study the menu carefully. Eventually he worked out what he wanted, but by that time Lynette had almost finished her meal. Doubling as a waiter, the chef took Larry's order and headed for the kitchen to prepare it for him, while Lynette finished eating. They were now very comfortable in each other's company and chatted happily while they ate. They decided to continue their celebration of their new status of being boyfriend and girlfriend. And they went to the bar, and this time there was a mixologist on duty. They each ordered a romantic drink. Oops, he was also breaking bottles. Needed more practice, obviously, but he wasn't too bad. Lynette soon had her pink romantic drink with the little pink heart swizzle stick, and then Larry got to order his. I think he ordered a different one, but it looked the same when he finally got it. That Plumbot's getting better. He doesn't drop as many bottles now. Maybe he was just nervous. Something to do with this pair coming in to his bar. He wasn't expecting anyone. The locals don't seem to come in here very often. There's music playing and there's a dance floor. Will they dance? Lynette finished her drink just as Larry received his. So she noticed there was music and she got up and she started to dance all by herself while Larry finished his drink. And then Larry joined her on the dance floor, but he wasn't feeling very comfortable with that type of dance that she was doing. Lynette noticed he'd stopped dancing, so she went over to see what the problem was, and he asked her for a slow dance. And they enjoyed dancing together for quite a while before they suddenly decided to run off somewhere else. There was another room down here that has great interest, especially to Larry. Larry has a big wish for a baby, and there is a nursery down here. I was really surprised that he raced in there autonomously to check it out, but he did, and that's where he's off to now. He headed out of the bar down a hallway for a little way, and then he turned left into this nursery, which has been set up for any parents who've got babies or toddlers, and they can leave them here while the parents enjoy a ride on the gondola, and we don't have toddlers sitting around screaming or babies just lying on the ground. It didn't take long for Lynette to track him down, and soon they were both standing there in the middle of this empty nursery playing with their sprites. But it was late in the day and they were hungry again, and Lynette headed off back to the community centre to get something to eat, and there she met up with the time traveller. It's a good idea for a sim to make friends with the time traveller, because if they become best friends, then the time traveller might give them the key to get to the other two worlds, the dystopian future and the utopian future. So it's a pretty good idea. So Lynette's there chatting with Emmett until he wanders off to play with his sprite. There seems to be plenty of activity at the community centre, and I don't know what that game is she's playing on the pool table. Lynette becomes aware that Larry has headed home and is sitting on a seat downstairs, reading, of course. He's a bookworm, isn't he? Larry just sits there totally engrossed in his book. He doesn't even notice all the townies wandering past. Lynette comes down in the lift and she soon finds him and sits down, and they just have a quiet moment together. It was a bit boring for Lynette just sitting there while he read his book, so she eventually stood up and challenged him to a mind meld. Don't think they actually learnt much though. They already know a fair bit about each other, but at least they tried. And then it was time for a little bit of flirting. But it was getting late and they were both tired, and the day was over and they really needed to sleep. So they decided to head off to bed. Now, Lynette had been sharing Larry's bed at night ever since that first night when she woke up to discover a stranger had climbed into her bed with her during the night as she slept. She just felt a little bit safer with Larry there, but that didn't stop strangers wandering into the bedroom and interfering with their sleep. And here she is with a visiting plumbot while Larry snores on. At least the plumbot didn't climb into bed with her, but it did scan her. That's twice she's been scanned now. The visiting plumbot eventually left and Lynette climbed back into bed. At least with Larry there's no room for some of these visitors to climb in with her, and visitors continued throughout the night. I did try to lock their door, but it isn't capable of being locked. So it seems just about every sim in the world spends at least some of the night in the room with a sleeping couple. I suppose it's one way for them to make memories of their time together on vacation in Oasis Landing, and I'm sure there'll be endless conversations in the future when they recall what went on while they were getting to know each other in Oasis Landing. Next morning they got up and had their breakfasts. Lynette was careful not to sit at the table with some of the townies just in case but Larry didn't have any worries. He just sat down and ignored them, and they ignored him. They didn't have any actual plans for the day. They just thought they'd let the day happen and just see what happens. They were sure they'd enjoy the time together, so they weren't worried too much about making plans. As soon as their breakfast was over, they both decided that they really wanted to go for another gondola ride. So off they went to the gondola hangout and enjoyed another romantic ride around the circuit that was made from the gondola's canal. And all of those flowers that Larry picked earlier, they've all grown back again. He could go picking more flowers if he wanted to, but I'm not too sure what he's going to do next. We'll have to wait and see what eventuates. All of those little gazebo sort of things on each side of the canal, they each have a circular staircase leading down to the underground corridors and games rooms and the restaurant and the bar with the dance floor and also the nursery. But the happy couple, they've got nice red hearts over their heads now. Before that was little blue plum bobs, but now it's red hearts. So things are progressing nicely. Hopefully we'll have a wedding shortly. Whether they have it before they go home or back at home in that big wedding venue remains to be seen. Right now, all they're wanting to do is enjoy the romance of the gondola ride through these beautiful gardens. In case you were wondering, I've got the gondola sped up to 200%. That's why it's going around so fast. We've got to squeeze so much more into this video. And there is the green branches of the Tree of Prosperity waving in the breeze there. They're almost back to their home base. There's the carousel they had a ride in earlier. The original gondola got picked up and dumped into one of the ponds, and I just left it there. I thought it would be interesting decor. At the end of their ride, as soon as they managed to get back to their starting point, the gondolier gradually pulled up the gondola and he leapt out of it and took off on his board. Lynette and Larry were left just on their own, standing there, and it was the perfect time for a dip kiss to celebrate their romantic gondola ride. And of course, because Larry has the great kisser trait, the happy effects of every kiss lasts for hours for each of them. So they just stand there and they kiss and they cuddle and hold hands and flirt while they're thinking of what to do with the rest of their day. Eventually, they decide it's time to do something a bit different, and Lynette remembers something Emmett said to her one time. There's a waterfall off in the hills somewhere, and she thought that it'd be nice for them to go and have a look at the waterfall. It could be another romantic outing for them. So that's what they did next. They took off, hopped onto the Zephyr Sky Rail, which stands in for the subway in Oasis Landing, and headed for the waterfall. It was a surprisingly quick trip on that Sky Rail, but it didn't take them all of the way to the waterfall. They still had a long, steep dirt road to climb before they got to the hills where the waterfall was. As they got to the top of the hill, they discovered it wasn't just a waterfall. There was actually houses there and a little park. So they decided to investigate the park first. These were old-fashioned houses, not like the ones in the main part of town. And here they are. They've both arrived at the children's playground. There was a few gems that they could collect and an old shed, and they could go fishing. There was horses there too, lots of wild horses. And there was the waterfall. So Emmett knew what he was talking about, and it's a spot for them to experiment with their flying. And so Lynette took off and she did some wonderful dips and dives with her jetpack. Both of them had a good high advanced technology skill now, so they could risk flying around, and Lynette had a wonderful time. And then Larry, whose advanced technology skill wasn't quite as high as Lynette's, but he decided he'd risk it because he thought it looked like she was having so much fun and he wanted to fly with her. So then it was the two of them flying together in the children's playground, and were they having fun? I guess they were building their advanced technology skill while they're doing this as well. Loop the loops and zooming around. Larry fell. Oh look, he goes, I hope he didn't die. He's still kicking. He's coming back up again. But is that his ghost or is it Larry? It looks like Grim hasn't arrived, so maybe he survived that one. That was scary. Oh, he's happy. He clapped his hands. He does have some death flowers, I think, in his inventory, so he's been gardening and they've been growing a lot of death flowers. Oh, he's fairly safe. Oh, he's going to check out his texts. He's going to ring someone. And Lynette's taking a little breather. She's chatting with her sprite. Oh, she's going over there to collect some of those gemstones that they found lying on the ground. And of course Larry's gone with her. I was lucky when he landed headfirst and got buried in the ground. It's situations like that when you expect to see the Grim Reaper arrive. It's an interesting old shed there. It's all boarded up. It's just a decorated object at the moment. Nobody lives there and they can't get inside it. Those jetpacks can be annoying when they start to use them. Oh, they're having a cuddle and a kiss. Now what's she going to do? Oh, there's a townie running past. Oh, look, they're going up together. She's holding him. She's lifting him up and holding him safe. Oh, they're having a jetpack kiss. Oh, that was nice. They just used her jetpack and she controlled it, which is good because she's got the highest advanced technology skill. I was wondering if they'd do a jetpack kiss, and they did. That was a new kiss that came with this expansion pack. Things are getting serious here. What's going to happen next? Oh, look, he's asking her to marry him. Proposed marriage, and of course she said yes. After that jetpack kiss, what else could they do? So, will we take them home to have a wedding in the wedding chapel? Or will we have a elopement and they can get married here with just the two of them? I am thinking it'd be a whole lot easier to organise a private wedding for them here at the waterfall, maybe. They haven't been to the waterfall yet. They've had a nice dip kiss, and they've got their red hearts over their heads. Well, they're not deep red hearts, they're just pink hearts, but considering they're going to have to get married anyway because that's what they're required to do, it's good they're making this much progress. They've agreed to get married to each other and they've got engaged. Oh, they do enjoy kissing, especially with him with that great kisser trait. Just think, if they stay together forever, she's always going to have the effects of a great kiss. Oh, now they're going to do a moon bounce together. This is one of the tricks they learnt when they did the advanced technology course at the observatory. It's a bit like jumping for joy, isn't it? Or another way of dancing, but it's not. It's a moon bounce. And the only way I know you can get a sim to be able to do this is to send them to the observatory and do that class on advanced technology. Well, let them bounce away together for a while. They might as well enjoy themselves. They'll still be able to do this back in Cake Island, of course. The other trick they learnt there was to plant the flag. I'm not sure if I've shown you them doing that yet. But there's time for some more kisses. But it's getting late in the evening, and I think they've got another place to be. When they got up here, they noticed there's a sort of a hotspot nightclub sort of a thing that they might go and visit before they go back to have a sleep and decide what they're going to do tomorrow. They got close to the waterfall. All those horses are gathering up in the hill there. They must like the waterfall as well. I didn't look for a unicorn in this world. I suppose there is one. There often is a unicorn near the waterfalls. For once they're on their own, no townies are interrupting them. They're just enjoying each other's company, not like when they're trying to sleep at night and their room is just completely overrun with visitors all night long. And there it is, from their vantage point on their way to the nightclub. They can have a look over the city of Oasis Landing, out past the wastelands, and see the sun setting. There it is, that's where they're going. Doesn't look like a very upmarket sort of a nightclub, does it? But I think it's worth them having a look, because it's probably the only place they haven't had a look at yet, and it's got to be getting close to the end of their time in Oasis Landing. And they might meet some of their descendants, if they have any descendants. I'm sure they will have descendants, because the whole purpose of them meeting and getting married is to have babies, because we need to have 30 grandchildren. They don't have to have all 30 just between those two, thank goodness. Lynette's got lots of siblings to help her out there. Well, there's quite a few townies here, and several of them are descended from Gerri. They have got Holden in their surnames, and some of them are descended from Ursula Gammon, because their last name is a Gammon. So they'll meet a few descendants. Not sure which Holdens they're descended from, of course. There's a little wooden bar there. Children are allowed to sit at the bar in this world. There's a stage and some music. I think Larry would like to dance, but Lynette's been too preoccupied with her sprite. There's some arcade games. It looks like Lynette's working her way through all of her sprites. Got to liven them all up. They're all getting a very low mood. I think their hearts are getting redder. A little bit of a flirt. Oh, what are they going to do? They're leaving. No, they're going to sit on the veranda thing, and they're going to watch the rafters and see if they can count the spiders. But it makes them happy, so why not? It's a thing they can do together. See how many spiders are up there. So they went back inside. Obviously they haven't had enough of the wild nightlife here. They wanted a drink. They've each got a drink now. That chap behind the bar, I think he is descended from Ursula Gammon. According to his last name, he is anyway. There's a good opportunity to meet plenty of townies here anyway. They seem to be gathering here. This might be the hot spot in town where they all go to just spend some time together. That's one of the Holden descendants playing the guitar over in the corner. Lynette's going to introduce herself to one of them. That's another Holden descendant. Could be one of Lynette's descendants, you never know. Larry's got blonde hair. I think Larry's getting a little bit tired of this. He wants a bit of Lynette's undivided attention, and she's spending a little bit too much time chatting. That's when he decided they needed to get married right away, immediately. And Lynette agreed, so off they went. They'd seen a very romantic place for them to exchange their vows. And they'd come prepared for a elopement with some special clothes that they'd taken with them on their vacation. So they quickly went to their spot and got changed into their wedding outfits. Larry wore his dark suit with his light blue tie, and Lynette had a long blue dress. She didn't have a bouquet, but she wore flowers in her hair, and they'll celebrate together after the wedding, so stay tuned. There's a bit of fun and games to come. There were no guests, but this wedding arch was just so romantic in their gondola lot where they'd spent so much of their courtship hours and days. It just seemed perfect for them to get married here instead of going home to that huge cathedral to get married with the huge family wedding. There were no witnesses, but Sims don't seem to need witnesses. Once they were married, they were married. They just had to make their promises, exchange rings, and that was it. So now it's Mr. and Mrs. And somebody just got 5,000 lifetime happiness points because they really wanted to get married. I think it might have been Larry. They're having a little conversation and a little flirt now that they're Mr. and Mrs. And they're thinking about what they're going to do to celebrate. They can't just go home. And as you know, there's lots of things downstairs. There's plenty they could get up to. The night is still young. So after a little flirt and a little dip kiss or two, they head downstairs to really celebrate their marriage. They certainly seem very happy with themselves and their latest crazy idea. You never know what this pair are going to get up to next. And I can assure you, there are things downstairs that you haven't yet seen. Don't imagine that when they get down there that it's just going to be more of the same. No, no, no. They are able to get up to all sorts of mischief down there. Lynette is the fourth of Gerri's children to get married. and there's 11 to go, so it'll be a while before they need to start having babies, but they will probably want to get some practice in first, just to make sure they know how to do it. I think that's enough cuddling and kissing and making out under the wedding arch. And just in case you're wondering, I haven't given them any encouragement, and this is just what they want to do, and so they're just doing it. It's time to get some privacy. Go downstairs, see what they can find to do down there. They just don't seem to be able to get their hands off each other. They're either touching each other or they're flirting or they're kissing. They've got to go downstairs. We haven't been down this staircase before. Oh, look. There's a photo booth. We need some wedding photos. Come on, Larry. That'll be a nice something to hang on their wall so they can remember their wedding day. I thought he had a blue tie, but obviously it's grey. She's going to get the photos out of the photo booth. Well, she's going to keep them. They must be good. But I should think she's worked out that photo booths are not just for taking photos. There's a lot more that they can do in there. And as soon as she had the thought, that the next thought was she really should bring this to Larry's attention. And that is exactly what she did. And Larry agreed. So it's back into the photo booth for the pair of them. Lynette first, followed closely by Larry. Oh, we're having a photo booth woohoo. First one ever. I don't think they'll be able to take a photo booth home with them. I think I saw a flash there. Looks like they got a photo taken while they were in action. She'd better check. I wonder if they meant to take a photo or if it was an accident. It was a photo booth after all. Just watch the facial expression. She checks and yes, there is a photo there, and she takes a look at it and she can't believe what she's seeing. She's horrified. No one's going to see that picture. So she shreds it immediately and then claps a hand at a job well done. Quite enjoyed the experience, I think, because she wasn't long before she was wanting another go just to make sure that they got it right the first time. But we won't worry about that. What's going to happen now is we're going to leave them here to enjoy their wedding night together. I think Larry's got into something more comfortable while Lynette explains the situation to her sprites. She's gradually working her way through all of the sprites. Then she decides to go join Larry, see what he's doing. And this looks like fun. They can stay here and play together, and the photo booth's not very far away. So that's the end of the video. We'll find them back at home in the next episode. Not sure how much longer they're going to stay in Oasis Landing. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. That helps the channel. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed and want to see the next episode. We've got 11 more weddings, and we've got 11 more vacations still coming. So thank you for watching. Bye bye for now, and happy simming.